Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I was watching a Project Pine Hills video about this Nitecore EDC17 light and thought that looks like a neat interface, one I'd like to take for a spin and see what it's all about. It looks very much like an out-the-front auto knife. In fact, very much like an out-the-front auto knife, just like that. And I thought there are all kinds of interesting interfaces that Nitecore uses. Here's their EDC37. You know, they're using the OLED displays for all kinds of stuff. EDC27. Well, this is the EDC17. It feels a little lighter. I actually like how it feels in the hand. Take a spin around the outside of it for a sec, and then let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper. So first of all, it does have a highly textured surface. You know, I'd call that jimping on a knife all the way around. Oh, what's that? Yep, that's a glass breaker right there. It's got a one-way pocket clip, but I really like that design. Deep carry, very large, distributes the weight well. And because the switch, when you activate it by pushing it forward, if you were putting it down into your pocket, you know, even if it caught on something, it would shut it off probably rather than turn it on. The glass breaker is removable. I'm going to get to that. Now, on the front end, you can see three different lights. We've got our white LED, our laser, and UV. Now, that's all controlled by one switch here and a mode button. Now, the way this works is, and this is what's kind of fascinating about it, is it is in the off mode here. They show it with a lock. It's not technically locked any more than a hard lock because there's no button to push. This is the button. So you slide it one forward, and that's going to be the lowest setting for either UV or the white light. And in this case, you can see it's the UV. In fact, really glows on these glow-in-the-dark bit holders from CountyCom. But what we have is a let me use this guy over here. It's a little bit bigger. So you can see the UV LED here has different settings. So here is off. Okay. Then there is the low setting, the medium setting, and the high setting. Now on the UV here, that's the high is an astonishing, what I think is a really high number, is 1350 milliwatts. The medium is the 650 milliwatt, kind of that's a normal amount of UV, and then it has a 220 milliwatt, a lower one. I'll show you what this looks like outside. So here are some nighttime beam shots. This is the white light. You can see it's got pretty good reach. It's got on the high end about 12,000 candela, so that's not too bad for more of an area light. It's got a really fast interface because you're using that slider. You can toggle from off to full blast, which essentially there's no turbo, no extra features no extra things you gotta click. There's a laser. Laser's pretty bright, nice clean beam. There's UV. The UV actually is incredibly bright. It's kind of neat to see. Makes crystal clear imagery. Camera has trouble focusing on the light with UV, but what it shows with UV, camera is really sensitive to. The battery indicator is nice and bright. You get 4 different LEDs showing you the quarters of power, and it goes off pretty quick too. But it's pretty noticeable when it turns on in the dark. Almost looks like a side light. This is an example of toggling through, so I'm going, you know, laser, UV, white light, laser, UV, white light, and then you can toggle the speeds of the different settings too. To get to the other levels, though, you just push this mode button here, and then it will switch. So I turn it on. I've got white light, I've got a laser, and I've got a UV. The laser only has one speed, so I'll turn it to the laser there. You can see it. One speed there, so as I switch through, you don't notice anything. Now the laser can also be activated by pushing the mode button at any time, and it's momentary. So this really does work really well as a standard laser pointer. Nice, bright, very round. That's good. You know, as far as the beam spread of this thing, really holds together very well. But I can also have it be on. So if you're doing lab experiments or just it's going to remain on, you got both. Now there is something kind of interesting about its lowest setting. So let me start out on the white light, I should say, on its highest setting. It's 1500 lumens, and it also has a 1500 milliamp battery in it. The next step down is 220 lumens. The next step down is 50 lumens, and then it goes to off. And unless you're fiddling with the mode button, it's going to remember what you were in right there. So I'm zipping through it. But it also does have a ultra low or 1 lumen setting. But the way you get to that is you actually hold the mode button down and then slide the switch, and there it is. There's the lowest setting. So it's a little bit different. You have to turn the laser on in order to get that lowest setting. And once you're in it, once you're in that lowest setting, any of the switches movement is just inert. It doesn't change that brightness at all. Once you click out of it and go back in, it'll go to whatever the last type of light. So as you can see, it would be the laser, or if I go to the UV and then go in to UV again, or white light, just goes right back. So you do go in at a low setting. It's 50 lumens is the minimum, unless you do that laser thing. Now normally it's not a big deal, but the laser is pretty bright, and if you're in a confined area and you want to get to that lowest lumen setting, you know, what I would do is point it in a direction where your eyes aren't looking at all. You know, if you're trying to preserve any night vision. But that's why I'm showing you. You can do it with one hand. I mean, I just did it there. It looks like it might take two, and you might start out. I've tried to. My thumb just isn't quite big enough to both depress that and slide it, but I can easily do it with 2 fingers. You just have to start out with that mode button pushed. So what else? One other thing. Let's talk about that glass breaker. The glass breaker is removable. Basically, you could easily just take a T8 Torx screwdriver and you can pop that out. So it's not only removable, it's replaceable. But there is another piece that comes with it if you don't want a glass breaker, and I'm not sure what's behind that. The only thing I could really think of is either maybe you're not allowed to have one, or because of the position of the pocket clip, you're pushing this down in your pocket. But that glass breaker, you know, is really, I don't know what you'd be trying to do that would actually cause that to, you know, be a problem on your finger. It's just a tiny little bump there. However, there's something I haven't seen, and that is, it does come with a lanyard, and it shows you instructions how to tie the lanyard right onto this, but I don't know why you couldn't just stick the lanyard in here and then stick the screw through it, just like that, and have yourself a lanyarded light. No glass breaker at this point, but I don't know, it seems like it should work. I tried to pop these little edges up on these. These are some kind of plastic, these jimping areas that run the perimeter of the light. But anyway, I thought, why not? I don't know, seemed to make sense to me. And then of course you can obviously swap that out for whatever you want, glass breaker or not. But anyway, there it is. Kind of a neat interface. I'm glad Nitecore is exploring. I really like Nitecore stuff. I'm going to put another plug in for these. I've been using them. I love them. They are USB-C rechargeable batteries I use with my cameras. They're great. But anyway, neat design. There's your battery indicator. Fits well in the hand. I like carrying it in my pocket. It's very fast to pull out. And if you happen to already be using any kind of these out the front auto knives with the side switch, then this is just a totally natural thing. And if you've got it already set on your preferred light, it's so handy. I was using something or doing something, and I stuck this in my mouth. This actually is nicer to bite into than a lot of the aluminum bar lights. So if you have to put one in your mouth, this one's actually a little bit better. So Nitecore, you might even think about that. You know, how much other non-metal texturing you could do that would provide, you know, decent purchase without risking your teeth. But, you know, we do that. We do that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. And with that, Doc out.